All right, what's up, guys? Starting this thing up with some absolute Bitcoin carnage. Price is still dropping as I'm starting the stream, but it should give us some really good stuff to look at, both in terms of Bitcoin and in terms of alts, because alts also took that massive hit. I'm sure everyone's seen. If you haven't, don't even open your Blockfolio, turn off the stream, and come back tomorrow because it'll be a better day. But looking at where we are now, where we were looking at yesterday, that's kind of what I want to start with. Yesterday, believe it or not, we were still above 9K, kind of looking at this level, not holding, what that meant, and the next possible support levels lower that I was looking at, that I was going to wait until we got to add to a long. And we're there today. So fast forward, not even 24 hours, and maybe I shouldn't even draw these lower support levels. They're almost like magnets that it seems like Bitcoin will drop to. But we'll talk about what's going on here, outlook, why this happened, whether or not it even matters, and then also the alts that I wanted to look at, or at least the alt that I'm looking at the alt that I'm focused on the most for kind of that bounce. Quick shout out to everyone in here. Mark, what's going on? Show me some blood. What's up, Jeffrey? Anoctis. Who else we got? Machuno. What's up, David? Frank, Carlos. He said Carlos is a hacker. I hope not, man. I use all my own information. Cool. What's up, guys? I think there's some other people in here. It looks like we have a little bit more than that. What's up? Even if you didn't throw a shout out in there, what's going on? Hope your Friday is going a little bit better than everyone's portfolio is doing. Anyways, jumping into Bitcoin. Enough of that, and just recapping what we looked at yesterday and what I was kind of talking about yesterday. So we were looking at this support level not holding. First of all, not holding. Second of all, not price never being able to confirm above 94.53. Right. So on this second kind of move up, we had the 9K, a little bit of a bounce as we got mid zone, and we were never able to close above this 9453 again. Right. So the way that I started off yesterday's stream, and it's good to do this. I can always see where I'm wrong. I can always see where I'm right. Yesterday, looking at not even being right in terms of numbers, right? But if you can kind of develop a system that allows you to say, this support level held or this support level didn't hold, and what happens based on both of those, right? So I have a system, based on confirmations, just based on horizontal levels. If that support level doesn't hold up here at 9255 up to 9453, that's a really quick, just with regardless if I'm biased, regardless if I want price to go up, regardless if I have a long position open, I probably know that since price wasn't able to break 9453, that couldn't confirm that we were going to head lower, right? So then the next levels that we picked is actually, the first one is where price is sitting right now, right? This is where price just dropped down to on some smaller time frames, just to kind of see how it's reacting at these levels, right? We did just have another massive red candle spike. We still don't have buy volume stepping in, but we did kind of ping that lower fib. Let me get even a little bit smaller time frame. I'm looking at something like a 5, which I rarely do, right? But you can kind of see right at the bottom of this fib or support zone, that's really where the first bids even stepped in. This is nothing to base too many decisions on yet. I just want to zoom in and kind of see how different levels are reacting. But these are the two support levels that I wanted to eye yesterday. The reason I eyed these, if you missed yesterday's video, not looking at RSI yet, is just based on them being previous horizontal support. Right back here, this was a really nice kind of support consolidation zone, and then also right here, right, you can see it's a little demand zone. This one also being a previous resistance, right, up in here. So those are the two levels that I kind of picked. What's nice here, and what lines up in kind of a nice confluence of indicators or spots to possibly buy a dip, right? My supports are never always going to be a perfect bottom, just like my resistances are never always going to be a perfect top. And I also won't be able to pick, personally trade the bottom or top. What I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get as close as I can, right? I want to find the highest probability, or find at least a good probability of where I can be adding on dips. Even if it does go a little bit lower, goes to our second dip, and capitulates through a little bit, I want to be as close to I can as the bottom, just like I want to be as close as I can to the top. What's nice about this first dip zone, the reason I also wanted to add here, and I finally did add here, was how oversold the 4-hour is. One quick thing about the RSI that I want to talk about, because I don't think it gets talked about kind of enough in crypto, and there's just a lot of there's just a lot of stuff out there that might be a little bit confusing. If we're looking at at an RSI on any time period, right? So this is going to be the overbought line, 70, oversold line, this yellow line on the bottom right here, 30 line. And you can change these settings. These are just default settings on the RSI that I stick with. One quick second. All right, the stream's still coming through. So one thing to note on the RSI, and I see this maybe misunderstood a lot on Twitter. Probably not so much in the group. It seems like everyone in the group is definitely more advanced than the general person on Twitter. But if we're looking at the RSI line, this green line crossing below the oversold line, right? Typically, or just generally for this indicator, right, a classical use of this indicator is not to buy when it crosses below the oversold line. Right, a traditional use of this indicator would actually be buying when it crosses back up above the oversold line. Right, so instead of buying as it crosses below this line, right, a typical or general or classical use of this indicator is going to be actually buying when it crosses back above the oversold line. The reason being, when RSI crosses below this oversold line, really all that's indicating is that there's momentum lower. Right, this is typically, if you buy every single time it crosses right below and you kind of line up what's happening, if you just follow my vertical dashed line on what's happening on the chart as it's crossing below, you can still see that the selling pressure usually continues. Right, it's typically when it crosses back above, and now I'm moving over a little bit, that's usually when we start to see the first bounces. Right, same thing here. The bounce happens when it crosses back above, not when it crosses below. When it crosses below, there's usually still another whatever time period you're in, there's usually still another candle of selling. Right, same exact thing back here when we cross below the oversold line, looking straight up, what's going on there, as opposed to looking what's happening when it crosses back above. The other thing to take into account when you're using the RSI like that is when you're crossing below, sure, you might get a little bit more selling, and you can already see that we have got more selling after it crossed below the oversold line. But if you kind of wait for the overbought or for it to cross back above oversold, right, it's going to be lagging a little bit. Right, it's just a slower moving. It's kind of like waiting for more confirmation. I would say it's a little bit safer way to use this as a signal. And I would never use anything in isolation anyways. I just kind of wanted to talk about using this maybe in confluence with your horizontal levels like I'm doing. All right, so that's also kind of why I like this level. Yes, it's not crossing back above the oversold line yet, but just based on where it is, almost at the 20 point, I expect it to start turning around. And when it does cross above this, I think we'll have kind of some nice bounce momentum. That's what I'm looking for. If we do move to this lower zone, I'm actually ready. This would be the only other place that I would place a bid. And then if we kind of move through this level, the thesis might be done on trying to catch a little bounce here, right? But that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. The game plan that we have been looking at for the past 2 days, especially the one yesterday, is playing out almost textbook. Right, I didn't line up a short into this. That would have been a nice way to profit. I just didn't want to short. I don't really want to be shorting what I'm calling kind of an uptrend. So I'm just more of timing. At least I knew not to buy yesterday, and it allows me to kind of buy after these massive red candles. Right, so let me go down to the comments real quick. What's going on, CB? So hopefully that makes sense in terms of RSI and also what we were looking at yesterday. It's not a fun day to say I'm right, because me being right yesterday meant we went a lot lower. So anyways, where we go from here, I'm looking at 4 hours. I want to see where we confirm on both these support levels. I also want to see buy volume step in. Right, so inflection points are usually marked kind of with that higher volume that I like to look for. We just still haven't had it. Right, so that's what I'm looking for Bitcoin. What caused this was that FUD coming out of Korea. I saw Ran, who just spent about a week in Korea and Japan, who has a lot of contacts all over the world. He said his contact in Korea said that it all checks out. There's nothing really to be concerned about. A regulator didn't really fully understand, I guess, the shared liquidity or kind of the shared reserves that some exchanges were using, and that's why they were pulling records. Apparently everything checked out, and it'll all be good. Right, just based on historically how Asian kind of FUD and exchange FUD has played out, it's typically led to a nice buying opportunity, especially when it lines up nice with the technicals. So that's all I'm doing this as. I'm using history as hopefully, that's another good indicator here. Right, so that's my view on Bitcoin. I'm not going to be. I don't really think there's too much more there to cover. If anyone has any questions specifically on Bitcoin, different levels, different things, happy to look at that. Now there's more. I think there's 20. Ooh, there's more people in here. Let me know if you guys have any before I kind of move along to the alts, so we can keep this part of the video focused on Bitcoin. What do we got? What do we got? What's up, Mind Blast? What's going on, CB? What's up, Jorge? Sugar Spa, really good question. Pardon my allergies, guys. Sugar Spa said, so are you only going to be buying when you see some volume step in? Sugar Spa, that's a good question. So there's two ways to play it, and it's kind of going back to that RSI study I did, right? So there's a confirmation way to play it, or there's kind of anticipation. So really just being, I don't think there's a problem being early, and I also don't think there's a problem being late. I think it's important to know which one you're going to be. All right, so if I'm buying before the RSI crosses back above the oversold, or kind of before I see this bid volume step in, I'm buying as it kind of hits this horizontal support, I probably know in my own head, maybe I'm a little bit early, right? And maybe the selling continues. Maybe my bids are underwater for a little bit, right? So I'm anticipating that I'm early. There's another way to play it. You could also wait for the buy volume to step in down here, right? We wait for kind of a 4-hour confirmation. We wait for a long wick, and we wait for things to really take off. That means the RSI would probably cross back above the oversold as well, right? So at least if you're waiting for that, that's kind of a slower approach. I like that. I always advocate for moving slower. If you wait for that, it's just important to understand you're probably a little bit late, right? So I don't think there's a problem being late or early. I think it's important to know which one you are, or which one you're even aiming to be. Right, so I'm moving in kind of before I even see that bid volume. I'm basing it mostly off the 4-hour RSI and also this horizontal level that I picked out yesterday. Good question though, Sugar Spy. I don't think there's, either way I think is fine. Mark says, or Marcus, at what point would you consider this capitulation? Does capitulation always mean we'll have a bounce? Reminds me of the dip from 5K to 3.1, 2017 from China FUD. Yeah, there's been a lot of FUD coming out of Asia. I think it's mostly, part of it is based on Western media, and maybe other parts of the world do it as well. I think we probably do it the best. It's probably not the right way I should say that. We do it the worst. I think we really exaggerate things, and then it's kind of like a vicious kind of feedback, in the sense that someone shares that, and then someone else will share it, and then it's kind of like a witch hunt for like what's the real news story. I think it's also probably translation, maybe partly, a little bit of kind of playing phone line. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why we get such bad FUD. In terms of capitulation, sorry, I'm trying to read your question on the iPad and also look at my screen. In terms of whether or not this is capitulation, I don't really ever look for what is a textbook definition of capitulation. If we do sell through the support zone and then we get a close back above it, that would be a really nice sign for me. It would also be the exact same sign though if our wick touched this and we got kind of a nice 4-hour close above, right? So I think we're already starting to see some signs of it, right? I think some people are scared. I think this level is going to scare a lot more people if it actually goes below 8K. I would probably label that more as capitulation than this level. I think there's too many people on Twitter right now that are comfortable calling this level and pretty confident already posting screenshots of where they bought, right? I would rather wait until later tonight or tomorrow morning to see a lot of people more scared, probably not posting, and definitely not telling people where they bought. Because you guys know the game, not everyone's going to be right. The majority will usually be wrong. Michael has a question. Will the consensus event have an effect on the market, specifically coins that we mentioned? Michael, we looked at that yesterday. Historically, consensus has had a really nice effect on Bitcoin's price, right? And this event should be 3 or 4 times bigger. I know like hundreds of people going, and it should be massive, right? I also think there's two sides to that. There's always like a sell the news type of event when coins have announcements. I think if the announcement warrants, if it's worth kind of an announcement, like Enigma's announcement, I'm hoping about mainnet should be nice. But I'm not sure. I think it should be a positive event for Bitcoin. I'm not sure about individual coins. I think it's a positive event for the entire market. But that's, who really knows? Historically, if we're looking, yes, it's been nice. All right, let's move on to the alts. Kind of got stuck there. All right. Good little discussion there, though. Looking at the other alts that I wanted to look at, let's flip back to ETH, actually, not to do any hindsight trading or anything like that. The one reason I want to flip back to ETH and to kind of look at this chart again is I think it's really helpful to audit every single decision. I always try to audit all my decisions. I kind of do that in a sense already. I don't keep a trade journal, but I record these videos every single day, and I post a lot on Twitter and in the group, so I can always kind of see where I was right and wrong, if I was early or late. Auditing kind of my decisions in this last week, whether or not I should have taken more profits, or the last 2 weeks, whether or not I should have taken more profits, what my kind of thoughts were at each point in the game. Right, so if we're going back to May 3rd, May 4th, with ETH at kind of this local top, local high, right? I think I focused a lot more on talking about not moving into more coins, right? Because we're at a local resistance, so either holding or selling as opposed to buying, right? But even me personally probably did not take enough profits using ETH as that timing guide of probably saying, yes, we probably are at a local high, right? I remember vividly I took profits on AppCoin, I took profits on APPC, I took profits on the Ethereum trade, then I also took nice profits on Loom, right? But I didn't kind of overall make an effort to reduce kind of exposure in every single position, right? So just kind of auditing my decision, once again, touching on this, I like to touch on this just like I like to touch on Bitcoin every single day, because if, I really want to show how helpful time and time again this ETH Bitcoin channel has been, right? So when it's at that local top 5354, I know Dean brought it up the other day. He just said, wow, if I just would have used that ETH timing guide just a little bit more, right? Just trusting the system, even selling a little bit, whether it's 5 or 10%, right, of your positions at those resistances, de-risking a little bit, and then being able to buy more when it comes back down. So I just kind of wanted to retouch on that, kind of look at maybe what I did okay, what I could have done better, what I wish I would have done, right? So ETH continues to be a nice guide. If we're looking at ETH and a lot of other alts and where kind of the next supports can be moving forward from this, I'm looking at this level, right? I think some, and all alts are in a different place. I think some alts could continue to dip a little bit lower, right? And I'm going to kind of use this as that timing guide for ETH now for a nice next buy, not only for ETH, for other alts, right? So we're kind of right in between a local top and kind of that next immediate support down. Right, so just always like to update this one as well, keep everyone on the same page of where we are. So if you do use this, and once again, I think it's incredibly helpful. I can't give you advice though. This just continues to be such a good tool. All right, moving past that, the individual coins that I want to look at. Loom was something I put into the new trade idea, but it's not a new trade idea at all, right? We've looked at it a bunch, traded it a few different times. When it bounced last week, was that May 5th, May 6th? Okay, so about 5 days ago, when it bounced last week, a lot of people kind of said, wow, I missed the Loom trade twice. So we're back down at that exact same support level with a bounce today, kind of at the peak FUD was at 53.7, so 5,377 sats. I think this level is attractive. This is one of those alts where I think it's a lot closer to its support zone than maybe some other ones like ETH. So I really I wanted to bring that one back up. The other two coins that I still have high conviction and I've kind of called them my two May picks are Icon and Enigma. Icon and Enigma, most other coins it seemed like took a pretty big hit today. Maybe not all of them, right? But a lot of them are down kind of 8 to 10 or even 15%. Icon kind of bounced back really hard right after the support level was broken. So after the support level is broken, you can see massive buy volume step in. That's a really good sign for me that Icon is probably going to perform well when the market does return, right? I like to look at coins not only in an uptrend who leads, but also in a downtrend who kind of has the best downside capture, right? What percentage are they going down? Is it less or more than the rest of the market? If they have good downside capture just meaning they're capturing less of the downside, that's typically a good bullish sign for me. All right, so I like Icon there, how it held. Exact same story with Enigma. Once my computer loads it. Exact same story here, where we at. Icon's a little bit prettier, but Enigma, same thing. So we sell through that support zone, buy volume steps in almost immediately, and now we hang kind of in the exact same spot. Right, so I like that Enigma could do that. Icon and Enigma both kind of showing strength. Some coins were able to bounce up back like that, some were not. Right, but I like kind of those two strongholds that were. Another thing that a lot of people noticed was smaller cap coins, or kind of those newer coins, how much better they're holding up than maybe some of the larger caps. Right, so we're seeing Republic Network continue to do well. I know AUC took a hit. DBIX and some of the smaller caps did take a hit, but coins like REN, coins like TOMO and LOOM actually fared pretty well. Loom probably isn't in that category anymore, but TOMO fared pretty well. And that kind of leads me to the last thing before I open it up just to questions. TOMO, well, it's not where we're going to go. TOMO is kind of the one coin that I'm really focused on for the bounce, right? And there's always some really good questions about when do I know when to move into TOMO, when do I know when to move into, suppose it's Aura or one of those coins on IDEX or on KuCoin that doesn't have a lot of price history. My answer is usually moving into those coins when there's kind of a market-wide FUD or a market-wide dip, and I can just time it in a macro sense. Right, so TOMO put out this update today. Right, really quick read, 2 minutes if you haven't read it. If you are a TOMO holder, I recommend you do read it. They talk about kind of separating that TOMO app, which confused even me a little bit when I learned about the project, and calling it, what was it called, Reply something. So they have their first dApp, which is going to be running on TOMO chain. They also talked about engineer ads. Then after that, kind of for the entire TOMO chain project, they're going to have a technical white paper, and they're going to be talking about masternodes and a few other things coming in May or early June, right? So that's pretty massive for TOMO. And once again, it continues to be a project like Loom. I think Loom kind of realized, I would say it's starting to realize its value. It's now what, in the 350 million market cap range, right? We were looking at it when it was 30, 40, 50. Where's Loom coin? Where's Loom? So Loom is, so after the dip today, 16% drop, we're at 275, right? But it's in the top 60 coins or so, right? So we were looking at it when it wasn't even in the first couple, whatever, 100. Now TOMO is moving up the ranks, right? But it's still, I think today after the drop, it's at like 80 million. So I think it's still massively undervalued. That's the one coin that on opportunities like this that I'm moving into, right? So I took another kind of profits from a few different coins, a little bit of spare Bitcoin, and moved more into TOMO on kind of the market-wide dip today. Whatever coin you have the most conviction in, don't just do TOMO because I'm doing TOMO. Whatever coin you have the most conviction in, these are kind of the opportunities that you move into a coin, whether it lines up technically, whether it lines up fundamentally. This is one of those market psychology, ones when there's kind of a market-wide shock. This is your chance to move into those coins, not when everyone, 2 weeks ago is posting their trades on Twitter and showing that they just had a 2x. Right? Those are usually not the best times to move into coins. Right, so this is kind of a screaming buy, at least for me, for something like TOMO that I've wanted more exposure to, but I haven't been able to get it as it's rising straight up. Right, so that's kind of why I'm looking at that. Let's see, guys. Sorry about that. Machuno, what will reply block be doing? Machuno, good question. I tried to download the app, but honestly, I think it's for the Asian market. It's like a knowledge sharing app in a way, but also kind of like social media. I don't know if you've ever used WeChat, but it's really similar to WeChat and kind of like a Wikipedia mixed, I guess, or like a Google. I don't know. You get paid to like answer and help other people, I guess. They're probably going to have their own native token as well, but it's just a dApp on TOMO chain. And I think the confusion at first was that it was called TOMO app and people thought the TOMO app was TOMO chain. David, good question on XEC. Actually, no, we have a fair amount of node holders in this group as well. XEC, from a TA perspective, if I was to like a level, it kind of just dipped down there. If I was to really like a level on XEC, it's anything kind of 421,000 sats or below. Honestly, it could really even go up to about 430,000 sats. So if I'm looking at, and this is kind of a fractal as well, if I'm looking at both of these falling wedges, we just left this one. We kind of accumulated on this horizontal level, kind of the bottom of it, it's at 400,000 sats. You can see us dip down into there today, and price reacted really well from that level. So I think anything at like 420,000 sats and below is really attractive, all the way down to 400,000 sats. My one concern when I look at Zcoin, and I don't want to FUD the project because I have a Znode and I do like it as a privacy coin. I want exposure to this sector. I like this. I think it's a strong coin. My one concern is, and I had this talk. I was talking with someone I really respect in the space. They asked, do you think Zcoin is growing their community? Because I was talking about, what's going to stop this coin from being the next Dash? What's going to stop this from being, a big player in the privacy space? And that's one thing that I'm not really sure. I haven't seen too many updates. Kind of the hype, it seems, has died down ever since they came out with their master nodes, right? So I haven't seen as much development from XCC. I could actually try to reach out. I'm pretty close with a member on their team, and try to see what that announcement at consensus is going to be. Right, so I could actually reach out and find that out. I'm going to jot that down, David, and do that, and actually see if he would be willing to share. I think it could be a nice catalyst. You're right. All right, where else were we at? Let me jump back to Bitcoin. $83.80. So it looks like it actually probably either is going to capitulate through this horizontal level, right, or it's going to drop down to kind of the next level, 8K. Just based off, the no buy volume still stepping in. We're almost about to cross this level, right? It looks like we almost are on smaller time frames. We're testing it right now. If you really want to look at 1 minute candles, see how well that price reacts at that fib. I don't think it's unlikely at all that we do to kind of test this lower level. Right, this is going to be that 8K to really 7,800 level. I also think that's the level that scares people a little bit more, and they kind of stop talking about buying the dip, right? And they maybe start talking about going through 6.6. So that's what I'm looking for with Bitcoin. It's nice to get that bid filled today. I really wish we would have been able to kind of short this opportunity. I just wasn't looking for a short, right? I was kind of getting ready to set up my next buy. So at least now I have a nice entry, or at least, for now I have a nice entry. But I wish I could have caught the short yesterday. That's kind of my only regret. But definitely I'm not going to be able to catch them all. David has a good question. Thoughts on Storm? Fundamentally, I really don't like Storm. I also don't like how it's shilled on Twitter so much. But for some reason, the volume and the masses just seem to keep kicking on that one. If I'm looking at Storm after that run up, I actually have it like a little bit closer to resistance, right? If this is kind of that previous little support zone, right? Support here, kind of viewing this as resistance that we're at right now. So I would actually be looking to buy Storm kind of on the next level down, right? Something lower like in this range, David. It almost looks like it's retesting that resistance now. As we drop down, it kind of comes up and retests it. It looks like it's kind of ready for the next level down. And I would be looking to rebuy like 400 range, right? Instead of the 463, even something up in like 410, 411. That's kind of where I would like Storm, all the way down to about 360. Right? To me, this looks like a broken support coming back down and retesting that broken support as resistance. That's how I'm viewing Storm. Mark S. Thoughts on Dragon? Individually, Dragon's only going to be on KuCoin, isn't it? Honestly, man, Storm looks good on the RSI as well. No real thoughts on Dragon. I just think market wide, we are 100% seeing an alt pullback, and it's just because of that violent Bitcoin move. Dragon isn't something that I'm really eyeing as kind of the big bounce. Everyone it just seems to kind of be waiting on a Binance listing or an exchange listing. That's just not one of the platforms that I really kind of studied or really dug into, right? I have a really small speculative position in Dragon just based on, once again, exchange rumors, right? But it's never really a coin that I've focused on or really dug into. So I just don't have I won't have a strong opinion there. Sorry, Marcus. Let's jump back here real quick just to end the stream on Bitcoin, guys. So once again, we got down to the level that I was looking for. That doesn't make me happy. I know it doesn't make anyone's portfolio look good, but it's nice to get the buy filled. I still like this as a bid level, as a support level. This is the level that I think is most attractive. Below that, my thesis might be done, but I'd be okay with looking for kind of a capitulation candle through. I just want to make sure 4-hour and daily candles close above this. If they don't, then kind of my thesis for this bid and for this bid would be gone, right? So that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. If we do get a bounce back, I'm going to be looking at this as kind of that first initial target. Maybe that I would start a hedge if we bounce back, but I still personally want to be net long. I'm sticking by that view. So I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Jorge did the ICX announcement, come as expected today. ICX, it was less of an announcement. It's more just kind of like the unveiling of the website. Right, so Nest is live. It's not live for the public right now. I think only partnered platform or partnered projects can use it, but the platform is out, right? And I think that kind of showed in the price and kind of showed in the chart. So that's what I'm looking at, guys. It's not the happiest of days. I also don't think it's any reason to panic. Honestly, when we talked about this yesterday, I didn't see anyone panic in the chat. I wasn't panicking. If anything, we were kind of preparing for this. So I don't think it's a reason to panic. Just like, keep everything in perspective, guys. It's a $1,000 move. And, at the end of April or beginning of April, we were down around 6,800 and we're at 84, and this would still make a higher low, right? So I don't want to be a perma bull. I'm literally trying to be objective. I'm looking at this as a dip in a reverse uptrend, and that's all I'm seeing. So big Samsung news. I didn't see that. That's all I really got in terms of price. One cool idea that Jorge had that I'm going to throw into the group. I'll have Alex actually throw a poll into the group. Talked about having a meetup kind of in a nice central hub somewhere like Atlanta or something. I think that would be an awesome idea. Every single place I go, I always try to meet with a few different people in the group. I got to meet with 2 or 3 people in Dubai. Met with one in South Africa, and got to meet a few in LA. Also, I'm going to meet a few, probably 4 or 5 of you guys in New York. But hosting an actual meetup would be awesome. I just want to get a gauge for how many people would be able to do that. I know most of you guys are in Europe or in Asia. So I'll have Alex post a poll. I'm definitely open to it, right? Yeah, that'd be awesome. It's kind of my goal is to meet as many of you in real life as I can, right? So I'll post a poll. I like that idea, Jorge. Good stuff. Anyways, guys, I'll be in the group the rest of the day. Today's definitely been an interesting day. I think like any other day, it's as important to kind of stay rational and maybe tune out some of the stuff you see on Twitter as it is any other day. So got down to our expected support levels. Just doesn't feel as good as I drew it up yesterday. So I'm signing off. That's what I'm looking at. TOMO is where I'm moving some funds today for a bounce. Other than that, I'm mostly just watching and waiting Bitcoin and not playing into the Twitter panic. Right? That's what I got, guys. Hopefully everyone has a good rest of the Friday. Maybe step away from the charts. Think big picture here. And I hope everyone has a good weekend. I will see you guys tomorrow for the stream, and I'm signing off.